Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Dalmar, together with my co-host Mark Kronich of Statewide News Service, JBizTechValley.com, and as you can see right here, columnist for the Jewish Press.
Right, I have a column in there called Albany Beat where I talk about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. But with us today, speaking of government, is an assemblyman from Schenectady County, Rotterdam, Angelo Santabarbara. Hello. Democrat, 111th Assembly District. Yeah. So welcome back to the Jewish View.
Yes, thanks for having me back here. It's good to be back and to join you again on the show. A lot has happened since we passed on the show, but it's great to be here again.
Well, we want to know the past, and obviously the new year is coming also.
It is coming.
So therefore, we want to know what's on the agenda.
What do you see coming up for the new legislative session?
Well, education has been something we've talked about since my first year in office, and this is my third year. We're just finishing up my third year, actually, getting into my fourth year. And education has always been a topic of discussion, and it's been ongoing. And I think it will continue to be a topic of discussion as we talk about school funding. That's been an issue that's been discussed over and over again. As you know, I'm from the town of Rotterdam in Schenectady County, and schools are a little bit different in rural communities, but they face similar issues that they do across the state. And funding, it always comes down to funding. What we can do to provide funding to make sure that our kids are getting the best education possible. So I expect that topic to be. In fact, we've already started talking about it in the district. We've had several press conferences, one of them revolving around small city schools. And how funding is different, how they face different issues. Cities like Schenectady, how they have some issues that other schools may not face.
Are you getting up there in the hierarchy? And that's only finishing up your second term, you're starting your fourth year.
Yeah.
But, is this something that so many legislators have either retired or left the legislature for one reason or another, put it politely. Are you moving up in the seniority ranks?
I think that, if you look at the numbers of newer legislators, there's quite a few that have 4 years or less. They're sort of in my
class.
Yeah, in my class. I guess it's a class, right?
Yeah,
it is a class.
It is a class.
So we talk a lot. We push for different things together, and I think the group is a larger group. So a lot of the legislature is sort of new.
Right.
It's not the legislature we've seen in the past. This is a new. This legislature looks a little bit differently, and because you've been there as well for a while, and you've seen it change over time. And there's a lot of newer members. We have some ideas we want to share. We want to see things done differently, and we're sort of talking about that. So I feel that together as a block, our voice is sort of united on some of the things that may be done a little differently going forward.
Mark, the main thing is that I don't want to lose the subject when you're talking about education. Something more closer to the funding for charter schools and private schools, which means Orthodox day schools. What's the name of the bill again?
Education Investment Tax Credit.
All right.
Yeah, and that was a topic of discussion as well.
Do you favor or?
That's something, again, that's something we're talking about.
But there was a vote last year already on it, so wasn't there?
No, there was no, that bill never came up for a vote in the Assembly.
Through conference.
Okay. No, so that was something that was discussed. I don't think there was any agreement made, again, and that's why the bill never came. I expect that to be an issue to come up as well. The education issues, I think, will resurface as they always do. Again, there's the public education funding, and there's different bills floating out there on proposals.
But the concept in general, the concept without getting into the minutia of what could be, are you in favor of the concept that money could be that there could be this tax credit for people who send their kids to private schools?
I think that the public education system is what I'm focusing on, so I think that's going to remain a priority for me.
Okay.
Yep.
What does that say about the?
Well, again,
that's not a priority.
I think that I'm thinking there's priorities. I think public education has to rise to the top for me.
Okay.
I have a lot of public schools in my district that really need a lot of help. So those are going to be the issues that remain on my top priority.
All right, and there was this other vote I was getting confused with, but it was East Ramapo. They had this big contentious debate between Ellen Jaffe and Dov Hikind.
Yeah, I saw that,
session.
and that went on sort of towards the end of session.
Yeah, the
right?
end of session. So how
Yeah.
did you vote on that? Were you?
Well, I relied on the local legislators.
Okay.
I supported them in their efforts
So?
to pass that bill.
So you supported?
Yeah, I supported them in their efforts
Okay.
to pass that bill that they wanted. And I again, it's not my district. I know those local legislators were pushing for that legislation. I think it was, I forget the legislator, Jaffe and was it Ken?
Zabrowski, but in the Senate it was Carlucci. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering the concept of having someone who's not elected, overseeing an elected body as a referee, and being able to overrule what an elected body says. Would you be in favor? I mean, how could you be in favor of something like
Well,
that?
I think it was a bill, again, the local legislators, it's something that they wanted
No,
to
but
pass.
if it sets a precedent, and then let's say someone comes into the assembly who's not elected and to oversee the assembly, and then let's say someone says, well, we can overrule the assembly because we're a monitor, we were put into place. I mean, wouldn't you be offended?
Well, and again, the details of that bill, there was a lot of discussion, and there was a lot of issues surrounding that, and I know there's been a continued discussion on that as well, and and I don't know if anything else is going to resurface when we come back around that bill, but I know those two legislators, they represent that area. So again, with local bills like that, it's kind of tough, but you do want to rely on local input, and those two legislators were the ones that heading up that chart.
Okay, so I just want to touch on your committee assignments to
Sure.
let everyone know. You chair the subcommittee on agriculture, economic development, and farmland protection. And that's what you was, right? Is that,
Yes,
it's
right.
on your
That's
website.
correct.
You're
Yes.
looking like, okay.
That's correct, yep.
So you, and you have a rural community, so you're also on the agriculture committee, you're on racing and wagering, and that may be because you're getting a casino nearby.
Well, there's a lot of, and the licenses were just issued for that, so that's.
Let me ask you
So
something.
wait, I just want to, energy committee, governmental employees, small business committee, and veterans affairs. So those are the issues that are close to your heart.
Yep, and that's, we just talked about some mail that went out on a lot of those issues, and the veterans issue.
People see it, or if you want to bring it up.
The veterans issue in particular, we've been trying to push some legislation to help our veterans, and we've seen, and I put out some mail. It's amazing. It's amazing how many.
Very good. Yeah, it's a little better review than.
Okay.
And it's amazing how many. How many veterans bills are out there, and we're trying to make sure that we're doing some of the things
Is it
that.
because you always read about how homeless the veterans are? Is that one of the issues?
In Schenectady County, we've done a very good job of making sure that homeless veterans have a place to stay and have opportunities, and I think we're close to solving that problem. If
Really?
Well,
I think it was
That's
we
pretty
made
good.
we made some significant progress, and we were recognized
By the First Lady.
Yes, by having made the
Didn't know
and I think that the numbers we've seen have gone down to virtually nothing in Schenectady
That's
County.
excellent, because they always say it's a big issue. but
One of the few
you-
counties that
Well,
they've been
Albany,
able-
Schenectady, Saratoga
Yep.
have all done away, and Rensselaer County, I think, also.
But it shows
pretty
that when
good.
when you have an issue like that people have talked about, and veterans issues have really come to the surface over the years, and we talk about the Vietnam days till now. A lot has changed, right? A lot has changed,
Right.
and veterans issues have become right up there as a top priority. And I served in the U.S. Army Reserves, so naturally I wanted to be on the Veterans Committee when I took office. And we've seen a lot of bills come through. Some of them have passed. Some of them are still being discussed. But they're all important. A lot of them revolve around benefits and earned I guess the military, the pension buyback bill was one that we wanted to see go through. Unfortunately, that was not.
Well, it's good to
approved.
see, because a lot of times they always talk about a little bit of a cut. You have these politicians talk about veterans who go to war, and they say, well, you weren't in the Army, you don't even know what it is. So it's always good to have that kind of representation, someone who has some experience.
I say that a lot. We should have more veterans serving in public office, and we say that. But honestly, veterans they're humble. They do their job. They serve their country. But we do need to encourage more participation. We want to
Do we
hear
have
their
any
voice.
numbers, Mark? Mark's
No,
always,
but Dan McCoy is.
Dan
veteran,
McCoy, yes,
yeah.
yes. So but
And Mike Breslin before him.
Yes.
And I'm sure that, when you look at the state legislature, of the male representatives, I'm sure that there's a high percentage who have served in.
And we want to see, we do want to see more of that. We do want to see more, and we want to see veterans heard. In my hometown of Rotterdam, we formed a group, AMVETS, a local AMVETS chapter, Post 35. We started off with 5 members about 3 years ago, and the group is well on its way to being over 100 members now. And this group is a group that keeps growing, and they are involved, and it's more of that should happen. There should be more, and not just in the town. They're actually thinking about making it a capital district chapter now, because it is important that we take a look at big picture items. As we said, homelessness is not just an issue in Schenectady County. It wasn't just an issue there that we worked on, but also the entire region. And that's how we're looking at things. We're looking at things from a broader view now to say, can we solve this problem at a larger level? And most of the time, if you look at it, maybe you can. And maybe groups can come together to not only solve homelessness, but other issues that veterans are facing.
Unemployment.
And I know we made some strides with the disabled veterans on setting a percentage of state contracts that are going to go towards disabled veteran-owned businesses. These are the types of initiatives that we want to lead the way on. We want to see New York take the lead on, and hopefully others will follow in that to say, you know what, New York is doing something good for their veterans. And of course, the college education always comes up. Veterans are returning, they want to finish their education. What benefits are there for them? And we've seen programs come and go, but we need to keep moving in that direction to say, if you serve the country, the country wants to take care of you now. We want to make sure that you are being not only recognized for your service, because it's a tremendous sacrifice, and you hear about veterans that have gone away, and a lot of times, in recent conflicts, they've been reservists that have been called away for quite a bit of time to be away from their family. I've heard stories of people that have had little, kids that they've had to leave and come back. So when you talk about sacrifice with veterans, they sacrifice a lot. So when you look at bills like this, I think most of these bills are almost they once they make it through committee, you see full support from the entire body of these bills going through. It's just a question of prioritizing, where we want to offer these benefits. But the important thing is that discussion remains at the very top.
Yeah, I think you're right that since Vietnam, really, I never saw the veterans issues that have come up so strong. They're more American. After Vietnam, you're a schmo, you went to Vietnam, what were you doing? That was the American attitude. And now it's just like, hey, they fought for us, they put out for us the country. We owe them an extra. I mean, the country gives a lot to everybody, any case, but we owe them a little extra measure.
We've seen it change quite a bit, and I talk to veterans that have lost their medals. They come to me, and I put out this mailer. The amazing response. Just had a little clip of return there. If a lot of veterans have lost their medals, whether they moved or they got misplaced or they've had some sort of natural disaster, flooding, whatever the case may be. We want them to call. We want to be able to recover those medals. That's recognition they've earned. We did a couple of veterans locally where we recognized them. We were able to return some items that were lost or misplaced or whatever the case may be.
Well, but isn't that also the feds like Schumer and Gillibrand?
They do the same thing as well. Yes, yes.
Wouldn't you refer them to?
We do, but we also do have some recognition at the state level that we offer as well.
And you had a bill for K-9 Veterans Day.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. That's the second year I carried that. The K-9 Veterans Day has not passed through committee yet. It's something that I want to see.
It's your committee that it hasn't passed. So
and you talk about recognizing veterans, but also the service dogs. That bill was around recognizing service dogs. Very important because the service dogs were a big part of a lot of conflicts. They were used in many various ways, and they still are now.
So why is it bottled up in committee?
I'm not sure. It's just the recognition, designating days. I think takes a little longer to get through, and there's a long list of people that want different days recognized for different things. That happens to be one of them.
So what's the day that you're looking for? Is it March 13th?
Yep, March 13th.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you wanted to talk about casinos, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well, it's just that I'm concerned, and I'm not an economics professor, and again, even though I know I'm a rabbi, but I'm a regular citizen, just for my own. idea that they're putting so much money in, and you see here Atlantic City's going to fail. I just hope that after a 1 or 2 year, I'm sure there'll be a boom. Ooh, look, Schenectady, after a year.
No one's
or
putting
two.
a tombstone up on Atlantic City, okay? It's not
Why, they
dead.
went
Yeah.
broke.
No, it's just a couple of casinos that have shuttered, and it's just part of the economy and that sort of thing. I
But
mean,
do you think
but
it's
we have
going to
one
go?
casino.
I mean, every 2 hours. I mean, look at upstate New York doesn't have that kind of wealth to.
No, but you're bringing in other people. You're not just looking at
gonna
local
come to
people going.
Schenectady?
Of course, why not?
Well, a couple of things with that. This casino, I think you'll find it's not really a Las Vegas style casino.
Right.
Upstate casinos are a little bit different. I don't know if there's just a different feel to them. It's not like what you would see in Las Vegas or even Atlantic
It's more
City
like
for
a
that matter.
resort.
It's more like a resort area. But if you look at the Mohawk Harbor is where this casino is going to be in Schenectady. And it's been a very exciting time just talking about this casino over the past year. You can feel an energy that people are starting to build around. The properties are starting to be redeveloped around the casino site. But it's much more than a casino. So there's a harbor, that we've never had before. So that's something that's going to bring in something new already. There's also, the housing, the condo part of it. There's restaurants, there's banquet halls. There's much
Hotels.
more. There's hotels. So I just visited the DoubleTree. I just took a tour in Schenectady. The DoubleTree Hotel that just opened up, sort of rebranded the hotel that was there. It used to be the Holiday Inn.
Oh, okay.
And I talked to them, and they're expecting a big influx
Right.
of people from this casino. 1,200 jobs, coming. That's pretty significant all in itself. But when you think about the support services that have to go along with this, you're already seeing the properties around the casino. People are starting to buy them up and already have plans to build around them because it is going to be a regional destination. It will bring people there. And, the downtown area, downtown Schenectady has come a long way.
Absolutely.
I served in a...
Proctor's, thank God for Proctor's, right?
Proctor's is what started it all.
That's
and
right.
we've seen that downtown get revitalized. And through the years, it has really, really helped for the rebirth of the Olympic City.
And again, you've had, quirky things happen.
Sure, we've had things...
Where Quirky,
we have had
where
things
Quirky
happen.
is closing up, they file for bankruptcy.
Absolutely.
And you've had, so that's what I'm saying. You'll always have businesses that'll change, that'll
businesses-
start and then close. But I think what Rabbi Simon is trying to talk about is what about the addiction part?
Well,
because that's a problem.
And I
with
think
this.
as we go through this planning process, that's where the city, and we want the community involved. We want to have things in place. We want to make sure infrastructure is ready. We want to make sure that the community is ready for this, but we also want them to be a part of it. So these things hopefully will be in place before the casino actually opens its doors. So all these issues that we're talking about here are being discussed locally.
All right, good.
So you don't think you'll have to add the Committee on Alcoholism and Substance Abuse?
No,
to
no.
your-
And again, I think that you'll find this casino to be very different than what when people envision casino, they envision Las Vegas, the Strip in Las Vegas. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. But that's naturally what you think of, right? That's what you think
Well,
of.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
look at and when you look at Turning Stone and how they started off in a very humble way with one building and some slots and some some table games. But now they got a golf course, and now they have conventions, and
There's
now
a
they
lot
have-
more. There's a lot more to do, and sometimes-
so you don't know how much that Rivers Casino is going to expand, and you may have a golf course nearby.
And
you can build
exactly. And the harbor,
Yeah.
and sometimes you find that people go up, the Turning Stone or wherever they go. Sometimes they don't go to gamble; they just go
No,
for the
they don't.
scenery, and they go for good restaurants or good food. They go for other things, and they go for the golf. And the
Right.
golf course there is unbelievable. I don't know if you've ever been there, but
Yeah, it is.
I understand
It's
it ranks
top
right up there
notch.
with the best of the best.
Yeah, it's
So
top notch.
we're seeing that sort of thing surrounding the main attraction, which may be the gambling part, but it's also just you got to look at it as a package, and also look at it the site that's being redeveloped. The site is virtually unused right now.
That's right.
But it's turning into something
It
spectacular.
used to. How they're going to get rid of all those locomotives?
Well,
Don't they still have
we know.
don't they still have rusty trains in there?
Schenectady has a lot of history.
Yeah.
That's what's nice about it. And but yeah, they're
Make a museum over it.
I've been thinking, how are they going to actually get those trains out off the tracks that are there? And
yeah, that's
just my own little-
I am an engineer, but the construction part of this, we're leaving it up to the experts, to handle.
So I wanted to ask you, as you get into more seniority, some of these committees are given to freshman lawmakers. lawmakers or sophomore lawmakers, where do you want to see the change in your committee assignments?
Well, I think we've already seen a change. The racing and wagering is something new for me.
Okay.
And it's actually one of the smaller committees.
Right.
But I think I like to be on committees that I feel I can add to.
Well, do you want to be on education committee?
Are relevant. Well, that's something I may want to be on. Yes. As spots become available.
You got to bump off a few more colleagues.
Well, we consider making changes when we feel those changes are appropriate. But I'm happy to work with the committee. If I'm not on the committee, I still will work with the committee members.
I know that happens a lot.
It's always nice to have a seat at the table, but you can't be on every committee.
No, but I'm just thinking maybe government employees or small business you'd drop to get education.
And I've heard of those possibilities happening. But I think every committee is relevant in some way.
They change every year, every 2
years.
years.
2 years.
Yeah, but I've seen a change in the middle too. Some people have made changes.
Well, it depends how how many people vacate one committee, and then you have vacancies, so then you got to fill it. And
there are so many good committees, and I have a son with autism, so that's something that I feel I'm going to be talking about some bills that revolve around autism, and we know we've had Harvey Wiesenberg there. We had him forever.
That's right.
To sort of be the champion of that. I'm hoping to fill some of that. Or some of that
his
role.
successor may be moving on to the Senate, so he may come back. No,
well, we don't know. We've
I'm
seen
just
things
joking.
change.
Let me ask you. You have a bill that you had requiring school bus drivers and attendants who ride with children attending preschool special education programs to complete training. Do you know about that?
Yep, that's a bill that, again, I do have a son with autism,
Right.
and I feel that, autism has been an issue that we've heard more and more about every single year.
Because it's now a spectrum.
Yeah, and it's a spectrum, and we're seeing numbers rise, and I deal with it with my son, he's 14.
So what happened with this bill?
Again, that's one of those bills that's is still in the committee process. I'm hopeful that next year we'll see some movement on it. We of course all the bills are important. We try and push them all through, but we got 150 members all trying to get their bills.
So what about this other bill that provides that students who have an IEP, which you could tell us what that is, but shall not be required to take more than one Regents examination in any given day?
And that's difficult for so the IEP is an individual plan for students like my son.
Okay.
So it's difficult for them to take more than one exam. Sometimes it's hard for them to take one exam.
Yeah.
So that sort of limits them to how many exams can be administered.
So did that get any traction this
We
year?
didn't, and again, that's the education
Committee.
one of those and I'm not on that committee,
Okay.
but I've been talking to members to try and make sure that that bill takes priority as well.
And what about the Amsterdam Firefighters Benevolent Association?
Now that we got through.
Oh, right.
That we got
through.
That we got through, and the governor did sign that bill.
All right.
We informed the Amsterdam firefighters. They were very happy to hear that they're going to be able to have that additional funding source and sort of cut out the middle there to make sure that those funds can be used as quickly as possible and in the ways they want to use them. Firefighters in our rural communities,
They're volunteers.
They're volunteers a lot of times. In Amsterdam, they're not,
paid,
but
paid,
but they're still such an important part of the community. And when you talk about upstate cities and the fire departments, you see the number of the calls that they have to handle. And I've talked to the firefighters, and one of the things you quickly realize is that it's not just fires they deal with. They deal with a whole lot more. They deal with emergencies.
They're first responders, they're paramedics, they're all the different...
They serve so many different needs that, you think of firefighting, you think of fires, but it's not like that anymore.
And they don't get cats out of trees anymore.
No. I haven't heard the last time. That would be something interesting, to get a cat out of a tree.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you is the fact that we have such a high turnover in the legislature. It's somewhat caused because some of the legislators have been taken out in handcuffs, or they've been convicted of felonies and crimes and other types of crimes. So, there was one former assemblyman who told me after the former assembly speaker, Sheldon Silver, was convicted, he said, I left the assembly because I didn't like the environment and I didn't want to be portrayed with a broad brush, and, it was guilt by association. So do you feel that way, or how do you feel about this? That was just one former assemblyman's opinion.
And I said this before on your show. I feel it's important to connect with your community, so the community knows who you are, what you represent, what you're about. And I feel that people can ask, and people can ask these questions because they feel comfortable. I never want to be, I never want to be an unapproachable person.
No, and you're not.
In the
And I'll
assembly.
tell you.
And I feel that, if you connect with the community, if you're doing your job as you're in the assembly, and this is something that I take very seriously, and I try to attend.
Do you have
every
outside
event.
income?
I do not. I do not have
Okay,
outside
so you're
income.
one of the 50%.
I'm one of the few that do. I
No,
do just.
a lot of them don't anymore.
Okay, well, and I do just this because I feel this is priority.
And
for
you're
me.
not independently wealthy like
No.
some other assembly people who don't need
No,
outside income. So.
my wife works, I work,
Yeah.
we have a son that's disabled, I have a daughter that's going through school now, and, we're getting ready for her, at some point maybe she may want to go to college, we're trying to figure out how we're going to pay for that. So we're like every other, a lot of families that live in my town, but I'm supposed to be.
That's
I'm
right.
supposed to be because...
A citizen legislator.
Yeah, a
right.
citizen legislator. So, these are issues the issues that I deal with, I think a lot of families are dealing with. So when they come to me, I can relate, and we talk about the autism issue. I get a lot of parents with special needs children, and I can tell them personally, look, my son's 14, I've gone through this. He was diagnosed at age 3. So he's grown up, over the past 11 years with that diagnosis. So when they come with me, the issues where people find out they just got diagnosed, I understand where they're coming from. I understand when they're asking for what can we do, how can we solve these problems.
That's your brand.
I deal with these problems
yeah.
firsthand with my son. So I try when we look at problem solving.
Right.
I try and bring that view from a parent's perspective to the bills and make sure they make sense and make sure it's actually solving the problem.
There are a lot of legislators who have a certain brand. Like David Gant is Mr. Transportation.
Sure.
Okay?
Yes.
Certain people have their own niche that they've carved out, and that's their brand, and anything else that they sponsor is sort of superfluous because they've all, they have this.
And I feel everybody has personal experiences.
But you don't have this notion that you're being it's guilt by association.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't.
okay.
I try and get as much feedback as I can. When I put out mail on veterans, I always give a chance for people to give me feedback. So I have this little clip, or I ask them to call, and a lot of people do call. And we talk about issues, and it may not be something that's here, any of these bills or any information that we're trying to solicit here, but they may call and talk about a different veterans issue, and I've had that happen. But the point is, the communication lines are open.
Can ethics be legislated? Can you legislate ethics?
Well, I think there's some things we can do. There's definitely some bills out there. We talked about this LLC loophole. We talked about some things that there's always an opportunity to make things better. And I think when we see those opportunities, we have to act on them. We have to do what we can do.
But you don't. But eventually, we're all fallible, and so everyone can.
I think we just have to make sure we have the right people in office, the people that are representing their community, the people that are there for the right reasons. Again, I do this full time. Like you said, I'm not wealthy.
Right.
I have an average household.
Right.
I think I represent the people in my area.
I sat through the Sheldon Silver trial, 4 days of the Sheldon Silver trial, and the first day of testimony, Amy Paulin, who's a colleague of yours, was talking about how she didn't know, even though she signed her financial disclosure form, she didn't know her husband had stocks in Con Edison and other energy matters, yet she's chair of the Energy Committee. Mm-hmm. So the defense pointed out that there was some, perceived conflict of interest, and no one knew. She didn't inform the Speaker's office about this, and she had the president of Con Ed testify at an Energy Committee and things like that. So, should there be more vigilance on the part of not necessarily the legislator, but the staff, the Speaker's staff, to decide who should be chair of the committee, and they should be examining all these financial disclosure forms so that the Speaker's staff doesn't have to, can avoid conflicts or potential conflicts.
I think every chance you get, you have to.
But that would be an internal one.
I think, and again, I think every chance we get, we do have to take steps to try and make things better. We have to have safeguards in place. And a lot of times, if it seems like it's a conflict, or if you're not sure, I think you always have to take the high road. I really do, because people expect you to. And it may be, we're not sure, but if you're not sure, I think you have to take the high road. and trying to do the best you can to
Yeah.
err on the side that if it looks like a perceived conflict, maybe it's something that you should stay away from. And that's part of the reason why, and I had an engineering career,
Right.
and I did engineering for 15 years. And, I think even in that field, there could be some perceived conflict where I think that, if I'm going to do this job, if I'm going to be the assembly person, then I'm going to be the assembly person. And that's a choice that I made when I ran for office. That's a choice that I made when I got elected, that I was going to give all that up to do this and to make this the priority so that there is no conflict with any other employment. And that's something that, that's my personal
That's
choice.
you,
That's
right.
something that I choose to do. I feel that if I'm going to do this job, I need to dedicate everything I have to it to make sure that, and there's a lot of people we represent, and they all have things that they want to talk to you about. So you have to make time. And and our schedule, it's not a 9 to 5. You know that.
That's right.
When we go home back to the district, whenever we're done, the work continues.
Right.
And sometimes it continues at all hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get emails at nighttime.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get phone calls after hours. So, I try and be as accessible. I try and take them. Of course, we got to put family time in there too. We have to spend time with the kids, with my daughter, with my son, with my wife. We have to make sure that we have family time. And especially, around the holidays, but I still try and be accommodating to make sure that we're taking calls. We took calls just today at our office. And I'm sure there's more calls after I left to come up here,
I wanted to let you're 43 years old, and when you look at the length and the longevity of the good legislators, I mean, you probably have a good 20, 30 years left in the assembly. So
I appreciate you
hopefully-
saying that. I take it 1 year at a time.
or 2 years at a time.
Yeah, 2 years at a time.
You got a 2-year contract.
So we don't know what the future is going to bring, and
No, I know.
and of course, as I said, family time is important. So we got, and my kids are getting older too, so we got to make sure
Well,
that we spend time.
Eventually,
with
there'll be an empty nest syndrome. So,
well, that could happen too.
So anyway, the best of success.
Well, I really
Angelo.
appreciate that, and it's great to have these just real conversations. That's why I like the show. We talk about real things that are affecting our communities, and you get to learn about what I'm doing on a daily basis as well.
Exactly.
Angelo, you're doing good work over here as a citizen legislator, and we're going to keep in tune with you
Yeah, I
again to
appreciate
tell
that.
you what's always happening at the Assembly. Keep up the good work with success and good health.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Continued
so much.
success.
I appreciate that.